Hi guys. So what I'm going to try to show you today is how to use your own samples in CinemorphX. Now this took a lot of trial and error for me to figure out, and experimentation. So there's a chance that when I show this demonstration it doesn't work. I know it sounds crazy, but so what I think you need to do first, or what I think you should do, is select the sounds that are in the first 8 groups, or 11 groups actually, of the instrument. So I'll use the top instance. You need to have 2 instances of CinemorphX open. I'll use the top one. And then deselect, well actually yeah, keep this selected for now. So this is orange here. You'll notice groups 1, 5, and 6 are empty. So what we're going to do is go to this first group with sound, and that is a spotless moon, or the spotless moon. So we're going to make sure that we select that one here. So what I mean by it might not work is that I've been having trouble duplicating this. After I figured it out for myself through a long process, I thought that I figured out the steps, and I thought that I found a simpler way to do it, but I'm still trying to do it a simpler way, without the big complex thing that I had to do in the first try. But if this doesn't work, then I'll have to show you the more complex method. So sorry, so we already selected group 1, so then we're going to go, this is acid flashback. So we want to make sure that these are all selected first samples. Agoraphobic will be number 3. And then alien artifacts. Now I think this is a typo. That it's not actually alien artifacts. This is, at least in here in the browser, it should be space artifacts. So we got that selected. Next one is alien communicator. We'll do that for 1. And I think they just go down the list now. So alien communicator 2. Oops. Alien communicator 3. And then alien ear torture. Now theoretically it shouldn't matter which ones you, like which order you select these sounds, that you just have these sounds in there. So actually, let's solo this instrument. If you just kept it like this, I mean honestly, this would work alone, and you just worked with these first 11 groups, stopped here. I'm sure you could even change the group title here. Actually, I won't change anything. Let's just keep it all the same because maybe it will mess with the engine, the scripting and stuff. So if you just replace these samples with your own and just never change the browser here, never went through and changed the samples, you could use your own samples. And this is already showing you enough to do that. The problem is you have these other, thousands of samples programmed into this instrument. And so that's just a lot of loading time, just to use your own samples. So basically what we want to do then is cut down the samples. Now you could go one by one and delete every single one after group 11, so group 12 and beyond, and just, control, click, 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 click. When that happens, and that really frustrates me, but, because then your selection gets rewound, unselected. So you could go down and just control click everything, but that's 35,000 groups. That would take forever. So the other thing that I'm hoping works is to actually replace these groups. So what you do is deselect this so that you see all of the samples in the grouping and mapping here. Then you would crap. Click and drag and select all of the groups. Right click, delete zones. So like I said, you can already use your samples if you just work with those first 11 groups. And remember that group 1, 5, and 6. 1, 5, and 6 do not have sounds, so don't put any of your sounds in there. Just deal with the other groups up to 11. So there's 8 possible layers. 3 groups are empty, so there's 8 of the 11 you put your sounds in. Make sure all of these samples are deleted. So we no longer have any sounds in here. So now what we want to do is right click and purge empty groups. So we have no more sounds and we have 1 group remaining. I'm really hoping this works. It simplifies the whole thing. So then we'll go to the second instance, which we have not touched yet. So we want one instance to be original, like everything's the way it was. What we'll do is select those first 11 groups. And right click, copy selected groups. And then paste groups with samples. So basically what we're doing is trying to decrease the sample content so that it doesn't require a bunch of time to load it every time we want to use our own samples. And we're going to delete this first group. Now, this is the moment of truth, because every time I've tried to duplicate this, I didn't have these groups selected first, these presets with the sounds. I did not have them selected. I did it after I transferred the 11 groups over, and it was like this. I selected them after the fact. But I thought maybe if I selected them before the fact, it would trigger them. Crap, it does not. So, what this means, it's not even Serious? So now it's not even triggering the groups at all, which completely messes with everything. Ooh, wait a minute. We got something. Got something. Let's see if purge all samples. Update sample pool. Oh, it's working. And maybe all I did was have to select, like, you know, all these sounds were already pre-selected, but maybe you just had to select it again to get it to be activated. So we can see all of the sounds are working. We can go through, check each one. No, I didn't want to do that. Something that really bugs me is this XY, this crossfading thing is really hard to select. Okay. So both those are being activated correctly. Both of those are working correctly. Both of those are working correctly. So we have all the samples being activated, and as you can see, groups 1, 5, and 6 are not, and those are empty. So you want to make sure that these are basically copied from that instance that you didn't touch at first, exactly the same. But that's after you first select to make sure those groups, the group samples, are being activated. So you do that first, and then follow the steps of deleting all these groups and then transferring over from the other instance the same groups over, just those 11 groups. And then it seems like you just have to select one of these, and then the engine reactivates everything. And if that doesn't work, try purging all samples and like resetting everything. Either way, this is the first time I got this to be duplicated again, and it's a lot simpler than I thought I would have had to do it. Again, the simplest way, like I said, would be just to load up the original CinemorphX NKI, and you don't have to delete any groups or anything. You just make sure that you select the first 8 samples, which are, you know, in the first 11 groups, because 3 of them are dead. Because then it's easier to deal with. You can load your own samples in and just remember that it's the first 11 groups. You don't have to scroll down and, you know, through thousands of groups. And then you just want to make sure you don't have the randomization function for the sound selection, so that it always stays on those groups. And you don't want the presets to be randomized as well, I believe, because then that might change the sounds, I think. But you can have the FX randomized. You can have the step sequencer, everything in there randomized. You can have these little arrows. When you select that, you can have these parameters randomized right here. Right there. There are a lot of functions available here. There's lots of buttons to tweak and stuff, so it can get kind of confusing. Like right now I'm kind of like, where's the button I push to get rid of this thing? Oh wait, yeah, I select that, that's right. So it's just a lot of stuff. So now that you do not have these randomizing, if you press random, it will just randomize the effects and sequencing and stuff. See, everything's still being activated. Samples are being triggered. Excuse me. So basically, at this point, you can just put any sample you want in there. So now you can, actually what I would do first is make a custom instrument NKI. I'm saying custom just so I can remember that I can use my custom samples in there. I mean, once you get to this point where you can use your own samples, you don't want to mess that up. You want to save your progress. So what you want to do is delete the original samples. So you want to unselect the selected groups only tab, and then delete all the zones. So there are no more samples. But you still have to remember. Let's try to see if this still works. So I'm going to change these just so I remember not to put any sounds in there. Okay, and then just I'm going to use the same sample, just, I don't know, it's easier to demonstrate. Okay, and then so everything's being triggered, it looks like. And because we don't have these selected, we can randomize and not worry about changing those sounds. And actually, a cool thing to do would be to dang it. Okay, there we go. Delete zones. Cool thing to do would be to actually use samples that are already mapped to an instrument and then just drag and copy or paste the already mapped samples into that. So let's try something here. Use some of my samples from the old Half-Light sampling collection. Well, there's apparently I put round robin in here. So I guess I'll just use one set of the round robins, copy zones. Paste zones. Now, for fun, let's use different samples then. Just because it would, give the best example of the capabilities of doing this, of using your own samples. So I'll stick with the Tibetan singing bowl samples, just maybe keep things a little more uniform. Copy zones. Paste zones. So the thing that makes this so powerful is that because you can do 8 layers and you can randomize things, you can basically test things and experiment very quickly because you're able to crossfade and isolate certain samples. So it makes it fairly quick. If I can load the samples more quickly. Let's try icicles. I mean, this would be the thing you'd want to do anyway, is to use different samples, not just to layer the same sample. So paste. Now let's try glass organ. All right, let's do dreams may come. Dystopian vision. Let's try this one, I guess. Yeah, let's do this one. Copy zones. And let's do brooding. All right. All right, so Sometimes it's really hard to grab this. Yeah, this thing is hard to kind of fidgety. It just doesn't work sometimes. I don't know. Got some strange stuff going on there. So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. So yeah, that's about it. Hopefully that was simple enough. I hope you enjoyed. Hope that you get some use out of it. Anyway, thanks for watching.